Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and KISMA. Today's episode is 3 skills to be successful without burning out. Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and KISMA, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set.
Well, hello there, Nick.
Hey there, KISMA.
What's going on in your world?
Sadly, all the guava that we've talked about, if anybody's been listening to the episode,
we have guava.
Our new place has all these trees and we have so many guava. And I think both of us have neutralized on the guava.
I know.
It's funny. For anybody that doesn't know what that is, a really interesting phenomenon that happens is it doesn't matter how good the thing is, like sooner or later with a sustained exposure to it, you will neutralize on it.
Yeah.
The guava were so good. Like they're so delicious. It's so amazing that they just hang out there. But man, I'll tell you what, after, I don't know how many, we had to get a couple hundred off of that tree.
We ate a lot of guava.
Yeah, enough with the guava for
That's
now.
Cool.
It's nice. It's nice to have a season of all right, great.
Yeah.
I can't wait for them to bloom again.
I think there might be peaches coming in.
We saw the blooms.
The blooms are coming. So, all right. Well, we got some cool things to talk about, and this is really your system. And it is 3 skills to be successful without burning out. And just heads up, who can this be for? Is it for just entrepreneurs? Is it for who can use this?
Well, that's a good question because you can use it in a lot of different ways. These principles apply in a lot of different areas. How this was born was by working with a client, and this client is an entrepreneur and making some moves and pivots in the business. And in doing that has found herself with multiple pretty substantial projects. Any one of those projects would be, they would require a lot of effort, nearly a full-time job for each one just to really see it through. And she's got a good 3 of them going on in addition to family stuff and family obligations and, just living life and doing the work, that she does. So it was a really great conversation. And as we were talking through it with her, I was sharing this formula. And I said, really, there are 3 things that you're going to need to master. So certainly for entrepreneurs, but these principles apply to anybody who's if you're just busy in your life, an active person in your life, and you've got a lot of different irons in the fire. These are skills that are definitely going to be really valuable for you. And if you want to be able to do those things without the constant ups and downs and, getting burned out and just wanting to quit and all the stuff that goes along with that, then these are 3 skills that you really do have to master in order to do that on a sustained level, and stay in your creative flow.
Right. Cool. Well, let's start with what's number 1.
Well, the first things first is you do have a lot of these things going, and they're going likely all happening. Certain pieces of it are happening in the same day.
Right.
So you have to master the art of changing gears, right, from one thing to the next, and to do that without energy bleed.
Wow.
I'll just kind of break that down a little bit.
Let's do.
One of the things that happens,
because energy bleed sounds really bad.
But that's really what it is.
That's what happens when people multitask or they're trying to focus and do different things all at once.
That's right. Multitasking is one of the worst things you can do for your brain, by the way. And for your work, for that matter. That is not how we were designed. Incidentally, that's a term. Multitasking is a term that was invented along with computers. And even in a computer, you look at your computer and you think it's doing all these amazing things simultaneously, but it's not.
It's not.
It's actually doing one thing at a time, super, super, super fast. when we try to do that in our heads, well, let me put it this way, is we wind up doing that in our heads by default.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here's how it plays out in practical terms. You're working on one thing. Okay. Let's say you're working on one project, and that maybe you're working on the project that's got a little bit more technical kind of bent to it, or you're just at a stage in the project that requires that. Okay. So you're working in this kind of technical, little bit down in the weeds level, trying to sort out this and this and this. And then you're like, oh, I got to get to that other thing.
Right.
Okay. Or, hey, I got to go reply to some emails, reply to your customers, reply to your family, or just, whatever. Okay. Well, if you don't change gears really cleanly to go from that thing over to the next thing, let's say, it's communication, right? So if you bring all that down the weeds stuff into your communication of just replying to emails and stuff, the people are not going to want to read the emails. For one, they're going to feel like really weird. And all the while, like, it's not going to bring the right energy to that. And all the while, if you don't do it cleanly, your brain is going to be lingering in the technical stuff of the previous project.
Right.
That is a normal thing that people tend to do.
Right.
Because the gear wasn't shifted. So learning how to do that really cleanly, to close that, okay, it really is like a conscious effort, okay, this is good for now.
Right.
And now I'm moving on to this. So it sounds like you're talking to a 5-year-old in your head, but that's kind of how we got to deal with it.
Right.
We're done with this now. And now we're going to go over here and do this. And when you do that, you give yourself an opportunity to actually be fully present with the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Switching gears. So it's like you change gears quickly and seamlessly. And you have to do it in such a way that you avoid that energy bleed. Right.
So it's really important. I mean, just think about it. We've all had those days where we're doing one thing, and then before we're done with that thing, something else like catches fire, and you're like, I got to deal with that thing. And then while you're dealing with that thing, another thing bursts out, and you got to go deal with that thing. And so by the end of the day, you've got 6, 8, 10 open loops.
Right.
Okay. And think about how draining that day is. Right. Got it. And the opposite of that is, all right, making clear transition from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. Energetically, one of the most powerful tools for that is cord cutting.
Cut the cords in between.
Because it helps you to detach from the energy of that.
Right.
It's way more efficient than that, but you also need the mental piece too. I think, the cord cutting helps.
Cord cutting helps the mental piece.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. Cord cutting helps your mind to say, okay, we're done with that.
Right.
And now we're going to go play here.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's the other tool for it? So cord cutting, what else can they do to swiftly and seamlessly change gears?
Well, when things are getting out, certainly when things are getting busy and things like that, you got to stay grounded. So that's really important because it'll spin out. And then especially if things are getting kind of hectic, you're going to get hectic with it. And you'll be the most clear and powerful force in the room or in the project if you stay grounded and clear and don't get swept into all the chaos and the weird.
So where can people get access to the cord cutting, the grounding exercises?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I put together a little training for these things. It's been really, really helpful for people to learn how to use these tools in their day. It's on my website. It's nickhansinger.com/energy-training.
Energy-training.
Yeah, nickhansinger.com/energy-training.
Great. Okay, awesome. So go there, everyone, so you know how to cut cords, get grounded. There's some great grounding tools, and that's going to help you to change gears seamlessly, quickly, without energy drain.
Yeah, that's absolutely vital skill. It applies in parenting,
just think if you're on the computer, you're on your phone, and then you have to go parent, which I know so many parents are going through right now with COVID. And then, or you're parenting, you get on a Zoom call. It's like, whoa, what is happening? And I know because I have clients that are feeling that. So this is invaluable.
Right. And those are things that when you're now more than ever, those are things that you really don't want to leave to chance of, okay, there's chaos going on over here and I need to drop in for this call. Like being able to flip that switch really, really easily, that's super powerful in your life. And it'll save you a lot of headaches for one, but it'll also save you so much energy.
Right. I love it. So step number 2.
Step number 2 is to make fast decisions and to do that without fear.
Decide quickly and without fear.
Right. The reason that that's important is because if you have a bunch of things going and you're caught in the in-between of indecision, like not really sure about this, not really sure about that, and then you're going to wind up kind of back in the same place with all the open loops and all of your projects will grind to a halt.
Right.
At very best, one will be making progress. And then, you start to get tired and it's like you're exhausted and it's like, well, I just don't have time or energy for those other ones. And the other two peter out. And if you really want to keep some things moving like that, it's really necessary to make fast decisions.
Yeah.
And not to bring all the fear into it. That's like, you do have to have that self-reflection piece of, am I making this decision because it's this came up actually when we were talking about am I doing this because this is what I've always done and this just seems like normal, or is this really the right thing?
Right.
And so it's easy to get caught in that in between and the second guessing and trying to, and those are valuable questions to ask. You just need to be able to do it really quickly. So a couple hacks for that is thinking about micro decisions. So sometimes it's like we want to make the big decisions, and those aren't really as important as you think. It's the.
Can you give some context?
Well, it's like, oh, am I going to go this way? Am I going to invest in Facebook ads and go down this whole thing, or am I going to do this with grassroots marketing and go down that whole train? Like, where's my first place to go? And that is not necessarily the first thing that you need to decide to move that forward. Certainly at a certain point, you're going to need to decide that, but it might not be obvious when it's 10 steps ahead. So a micro decision is more like, all right, what do I need to do to move the ball forward today? Who are the 5 people who've been hanging out that I need to reach out to? What are the little things that I can do, regardless of where I put my message out? What is the message that I'm going to say? What is my offer? And those kinds of things. Like, that's just basic stuff. But if that's not clear, it won't matter, what you're doing with the rest. And so you wind up in this, well, about this and this, and you get your head gets all jumbled up with all these different variables, especially creative people. This is,
I can see this in day-to-day life. Like, well, do I go to the store now or later? Like these simple things that we hesitate in making a clear decision. And then it creates congestion in the ajna chakra, in the brain. And we wonder why we get fatigued.
That's right.
Because we just don't make that swift, clear, I'm going now, I'll be right back.
That's right.
I know I do that, and it's heavy.
Yeah, I think we all do it. It's just easy to get in the not decision mode or just wanting somebody else to decide. I know you get so frustrated with me for that sometimes.
Yeah. He asked me, and I'm just stopping. Just tell him what to
decide, I made too many decisions today. Like decision fatigue. Apparently that's fatigue. A thing. Yeah.
It is.
So that and micro decisions too, like another micro decision, especially when kind of things are popping off, is to just put a pin in it wherever you're at. Right. Okay. All right. I know that my next step is this. I can't do that right now. So I'm deciding to pause.
So good. I just had a conversation with a client today about that. Instead of working late, is mark where you stopped and then go home.
Right. And that's what I consider like a micro decision. It's not a big decision. It's just a little thing. It's but it's important one to make, because then again, that stops the energy bleed. It lets your brain relax.
Right.
Like I'm reading some different books on writing and copywriting in particular, and studying a program on it. And there's a common theme throughout it. And it is that you have to give your brain time to just like relax, like release that grip. And that's where fresh ideas start to come
For sure.
through.
It's when your intuition gets activated.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's really like those things are really important, like deciding to just pause, and you might have to do that a bunch of times throughout the day, but that's why it's really handy to get super good at that and making fast decisions.
What can we share with people in regards to staying out of fear? So making those decisions quickly and cleanly without fear.
Well, that's a really great question, because the fear thing, I think it creeps up around the bigger stuff, because we're afraid to getting it wrong.
We're afraid to get disappointed.
Right. It's not going to work out, and like all this stuff around that. So the micro decisions, I think, really helps to do that. Like what's the next step? Like, let me just decide the next step. And when you do that, you start to, when you do that enough, you start to realize that no matter what, even if you make a terrible decision, you can fix it.
Right.
You can totally
There's
right
always
that
a
ship.
solution. That's true.
That's right.
It's really having faith and trust in yourself.
Yeah. The little micro decisions, it helps to build a lot of confidence. And then you feel more confident in the decisions. And that kind of one hand washes the other to help making those bigger decisions easier, because there are big, important decisions.
Right. Okay. That is really great. So quick, without fear, decide.
Yeah.
Step number 3.
This is a big one, but it's super key. It's like so important, is mastering the art of allowing. Okay. So
I feel like that pertains to so many things.
It does. Yeah. I think it really does. A lot, like the art of allowing. And the reason that it's important in this context is because we put ourselves at the center of it as the doer. The doer of the things. And then it really quickly becomes, I alone am the doer. Okay. And so there is this kind of grabbing of control, especially when things start to get a little more chaotic. Our natural tendency is not to let go, which is really one of the more healthy things to do.
Right.
Our natural tendency is to clamp down. And when we do that, we basically constrict the energy that we have, and you get exactly what you asked for, which is control of everything, which also means that nothing can move.
Right.
It can't really move in its natural way and develop. So the art of allowing is about, you do the thing, and then you let it go,
right,
so that it can kind of grow, whether it's just the idea that needs to grow in your mind, or whether it's like you need to do that thing and then you have to wait, for your next step, right? Like,
right.
Because you can't always necessarily do things next like that. Sometimes you have to kind of wait.
There has to be space to receive.
Right. Like sometimes I make a big, it gets kind of like worked up in my head about putting up a Facebook ad, or like, when am I going to do that? And then inevitably I do it and I'm like, oh, good, the ad's done. Right. But there's an approval process. There's, you got to wait for it to go through that. It might get rejected, and then you've got to go back and you're like, no, so it's like, it's getting the one thing done so that then the next things can happen. But that's only one dynamic of it. Another part of the art of allowing is letting other people step in. Letting other people step in and delegating, right? Yeah. Delegating. Not being a control bunny. That's right. Letting them, really empowering them to get it done in their way. Right? It's kind of a scary thing, but good parenting, I see good parents do this. They give kids responsibility and they let the kids kind of sort it out. Certainly there's a course correction. Like I was a kid, like I know the games I played with that, but you give them the opportunity to do that. Yeah. And because when you're in control and micromanaging, I don't care what the relationship is, whether it's employee relationship, right, partner or kids or whatever, like nobody wants to be micromanaged. Right. Right. They don't. It makes them feel sad, controlled. So you have to actually allow them to step in. And then I imagine when we have a team, so there's allowing the team to do the work.
And then having the appropriate time and space to, like you said, course correct.
Right.
If something doesn't go what we want to tweak it. When just again, allowing that space to be there in order to have the right kind of conversation means the next round, everything's going to hopefully go better.
That's right.
But when when you're in motion, you're course correcting, as you go, and it's got to be this way and that way and no one feels good.
Nobody feels good. It's just super stressful to work in that environment and that energy. And the reason, to me anyway, the reason I called it the art of allowing is because that really speaks to the core of it.
Yeah.
The attitude behind the whole thing is I'm going to allow this to happen.
Right.
Not like I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to force it. Yeah. I'm going to allow this to happen. When you step into that energy, everything can start to move.
Right.
And then you become more of a director than a doer.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that necessarily from a delegating things to other people as much as like you're in the flow with it.
Right.
And you're kind of directing the flow.
In so many ways.
Right.
Verbally, intentionally, energetically. Yeah.
Yeah. I watch you do this. It's really cool,
Yay.
to see that. And you're no stranger to, just buckling down and getting the things done. I always will remember you coming in the yoga studio and like you pulling out that mop,
pulling out that mop. The floor needs mop.
She's the KISMA, man. Like she's the studio owner and everything. And she's like, she'll pull out that mop, it's no big deal,
If it needs mopped and everyone else is busy, I will mop.
Yeah. But I remember that too, like not to get off on a tangent here towards the end, but I remember watching you do that too at the yoga studio where you certainly had your idea of, what you wanted things to be, but you really allowed people to just step in and do their thing. And I think it really did a lot just for the staff, which then the staff supported the teachers, certainly supported the teachers, and then the teachers with the students. It was something that rippled down. And I think that was something that really made that community very special.
It was. Well, it was a great team. They knew what to do. They were smart. So, yeah. God bless that yoga studio, Yoga Shelter Grosse Pointe. May it live on forever.
Yeah, may it live on forever.
So back to this, just a wrap up. 3 skills to be successful without burning out. Number 1, learn to change gears quickly and seamlessly without energy bleed. Grab Nick's tools for cord cutting grounding at nickhansinger.com/energy-basics.
Great.
And step number 2, decide quickly and clearly without fear. Leave the fear, guys. Just let it go. If you have to course correct, you're going to do it just quickly and cleanly. And step number 2, master the art of allowing.
Yep.
Really good stuff. So thank you for listening. Please feel free to share this episode with someone that you think might enjoy it. Give us a rating and review, and we can't wait to check in next week with you.
Thanks, everybody. Peace.
Namaste. Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.